Hey guys, Michael from Copper vs Glass, and it's that time again when we're looking at the top apps, this time of September 2020. So let's take a look. So first up we have Bullet Echo. Now this comes from the guys that created Cut the Rope, which originally was one of my favourite mobile games. Now this is a player versus player tactical shooter. There's no story mode, offline mode, it's all online, and it's basically multiple teams going against each other to win. You've got multiple characters to choose from, and they've all got different unique playstyles and different abilities, so you can play around with different people to see exactly which one suits you best for your game style. Now what makes the gameplay unique is you can't actually see. Now what I mean by that is you can see on the gameplay here that you do have a flashlight which then lights up what's going to be in front of you, so you can't see enemies unless they are in your cone of vision. However, you can hear footsteps and other shots to alert you to nearby enemies. There's a ton of different cosmetic items, weapons, abilities and heroes to unlock. Now it may look very simple, but the tactical aspect and the fact that you can't see the enemy makes it a pretty unique shooter experience. Now this game, along with everything else in this video, is going to be linked just down below in the description, just below the like button. Now next up we have Orbia. Now this one is a very simple to play one-handed game. Now the cool thing about this is because it's going to be in portrait mode, it's not going to be a two-handed shooter for example, or a very complicated game. All you have to do is tap on the screen when you can see a gap in the enemies, and then it's going to shoot you from one location to the other. Now don't get me wrong, it's not necessarily the hardest game out there, but it can be pretty challenging as you go throughout the different levels. The actual graphics themselves do look really nice, and it reminds me kind of a bit of the art style and colour palette of Monument Valley, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You can also pick up different abilities along the way, so you can get a shield or you can go a little bit faster, and as you can see you do also have a limited number of lives and health, so what that basically means is if you do tap at the wrong time and you do hit an enemy for example, it's going to take down your health and then you're going to lose the level. Now you do also pick up crystals along the way which you can use to unlock different abilities and things throughout the actual game itself, but overall it's a pretty cool game, a nice graphic style and just something that's really easy to pick up and play. Now the game itself is free to play, but you can get rid of the ads for around £2.50, but for me I played around 7 or so minutes for this specific gameplay recording and I didn't see one ad and I've only got the free version, so it's not really too bad when it comes to the advertisement side of things. Overall the gameplay is really simple, really easy pick up and play style and highly recommended. Now with everything going on with Google, Apple and Epic Games, you can't really play Fortnite on mobile anymore, at least not the newest update, which is kind of what everyone wants to be playing. So what I went ahead and done is I re-downloaded PUBG Mobile. There has been a ton of updates to this game, including the ability to run it at 90 frames a second on my OnePlus 7T and a load of other OnePlus devices. Now that's also with the graphics set on Ultra and using HDR as well, and the quality of the gameplay and the visuals look incredible. Now a lot of people when they play on PC for example do lower their graphics settings a ton to get a really high frame rate, so it doesn't really look too different to someone playing on a high-end PC, which is kind of incredible considering it's going to be on a mobile device. Now unfortunately there isn't really any sort of controller support unless you can do some sort of workaround, which I may be doing a video on further in the future, but for the most part it's going to be touchscreen controls, but thankfully they are very responsive and really easy to use, and they're really quite easy to pick up. Now for me, I'm not a huge fan of touchscreen first person shooters on mobile, but again with PUBG, the way that the controls work and just in general the fluidity of the gameplay, I had no issues whatsoever getting that victory. You've got a ton of different game modes to go through, whether it's solos, duos, trios or squads of 4. You've also got a ton of different maps to choose from and different game modes. Some of them put you on a slightly smaller map for a more fast-paced game, and some of them you've got 100 players, a massive open world, and it's basically the first one to get the best loot and survive till the finish. Now the loot system may be a little bit complicated for some people. You've got a ton of different attachments, some of them only work on specific guns. You've got loads of clothing pickups, armor pickups, energy pickups, but just in general if you do want to kind of just try it out and play, it's actually really easy to get the hang of. Now next up we have Rocket Rampage. Now this one was actually an ad that came up on my Instagram feed, and normally I don't really click on or play any games that I see on ads on Instagram because they're just not very good, but for me the visual art style of Rocket Rampage really caught my attention. Now yes, it is one of those games where you basically just have to click to keep bouncing as far as you can, but this one has a unique element. You've got a ton of different pickups, lots of enemy types, and just some unique powers that you can use along the way. The graphics themselves are also really nice. It kind of reminds me a little bit of maybe an older style side scroller like Rayman Return for example, and just in general the gameplay is really smooth. Again, on my OnePlus 7T I can't 100% tell, but to my eye it is going to be above 60 frames per second. Yes, I don't know if it hits that 90 frames a second, but it is very close. Overall, the gameplay is fun. The actual sounds of the gameplay aren't necessarily the best. They're pretty basic, to be perfectly honest. But if you want to put on some music of your own in the background and play along, it's a really awesome game. And again, you don't really have to think about it too much. Yes, there are some enemies that you do need to avoid and certain things that you can do to make yourself go faster and get further through the level. But overall, it's a very simple, very pleasing to the eye game. And I recommend it if you're into that pick up and play style of mobile games. And then lastly we have The Last Stand, which is a top-down battle royale game. The aim of the game, you've got around 30 to 40 people, you've got to pick up the best loot and armour and then basically just win against everybody else. Now the thing with this game that I really like is the graphic style. It reminds me very much of a cartoon style video game. If you had a PlayStation 2 back in the day and you downloaded a game called, I think it was 13, it has that really nice cartoony art style, but it is also very fluid and also looks and plays great. Now it can be a little bit difficult to control your character from time to time. The top down view can take some getting used to because again you've got full 360 degree movement from that top down view, so pressing down on the right thumb pad for example doesn't turn you around, it can kind of move you back and it can also take some getting used to. But once you get the hang of the controls and you've got some really awesome guns, it can be a really fun experience. I also like the fact that you actually don't jump out of any sort of plane or bus or anything, you just pick your landing spot and you can also see where some other people have landed as well if you do want to give yourself a little bit of a challenge and start off in a hot zone. You've also got some zombies on the map that you do need to contend with, but they do also drop health and armor and things, so again if you do want to drop in one of those sorts of areas you can do and get a slight advantage. Overall the gunplay is really good, the graphical style is really smooth as well, and again it's running at that solid 60 frames a second, so it's a very smooth gaming experience. So overall the gameplay is very fluid, it has a really nice art style. Now the controls do take some getting used to, some people may not like the top down view and may want to maybe have a third person or first person shooter for example, and again if you're going to look back in my video, PUBG is perfect for that because you can actually choose between the two. But if you're looking for something slightly different and a little bit of a challenge, The Last Stand is the game for you. And that's going to do it guys for this video on the top games of September 2020. Now if you guys have any recommendation for any future videos here, whether it's top icon packs, launchers or a top games, then again let me know in the description below and I'll see if I can feature it in a future video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give a thumbs up down below, and if you've got any questions or comments, again down in that description box will be all of the links to the games here, but if you've got any questions hit me up on Twitter at Copper vs Glass. If you're not already subscribed, now's a great time to do so, and once you've hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you're notified anytime I post a new video here on the channel. I'm Michael from Copper vs Glass, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.